WWE Fast Lane is just hours away, the first pay-per-view of the Peacock era, although it will be simulcast on WWE Network in the US as well. This is a totally unnecessary show, but it is the guinea pig to see how things go on the Peacock end, if there are kinks to work out before WrestleMania. I will be live, as always, on YouTube as soon as this totally unnecessary pay-per-view goes off the air for an equally unnecessary review that I know you will all tune in for. I'll also be picking the winners for the Wrestle Rumble Final Stop belt giveaway. It's only $1 to enter. You have until 7 o'clock right before the pay-per-view to do so. They are giving away a first place spinner belt, second place NXT UK Championship, third place Daniel Bryan eco-friendly belt, fourth place is a series of mini belts, and the fifth place winner gets 2 mystery belts. 5 winners, 10 titles being given away. Visit WrestleRumble.com. That's all you got to do to go enter the contest and tune in live. We had Super Chats were open as always. We had one go off the other night during the Dynamite stream. I think it was the Big Show one where I imitate the whole Big Show chokeslam thing. It's one of the few that has audio. And I could not for the life of me figure out what that noise was. And then when I realized what it was, I was like, it's me. Scared the hell out of myself. But it's all in good fun. So I hope you'll join me for the stream. Speaking of Peacock, before we get into this Fastlane card, it did launch on Thursday. It's only been a few days. Got some thoughts. I know a lot of you still have questions because WWE has done a very poor job, I think, of alerting network subscribers as far as what exactly they should be doing and what's going on. Network content went live on Peacock on Thursday. There is a little bit more than I expected, although that's not saying much. Most of the classic content is missing. What they do have up is very scattershot. So you can, for example, access old pay-per-views, all the WrestleManias, all the Royal Rumbles, SummerSlams, etc. And some, although not all, of the WCW pay-per-views, the ECW pay-per-views, you will find a lot of that. Everything on Peacock is categorized by season. So, for example, if you're going to go back in the archives and look for the Royal Rumble in 1994, it's going to give you a season number. You've got to go through all the seasons. So that is how they have everything categorized on there. The way things are organized, I think, overall is terrible. It's just, there's no rhyme or reason. It's as if, the process has begun and things are just randomly popping up. And that's probably the way it's going to be, honestly, for the next 4 or 5 months. But take WCW, for example. They have Bunkhouse Stampede 88. They've got Capital Combat 90. And then they have some of the later pay-per-views. And that's it. If you type WCW into the search bar, WCW Saturday Night comes up. If you click it, they have 1 season of the show that is currently up with episodes only from September through December of 1993. That's it. Old Raws only go back to season 16. If you're wondering what the hell season 16, that was all the episodes from 2008. That's as far back as that goes. So the point is, it's going to be a long process before everything gets up. If you are watching the ad-supported version of Peacock, I was testing out an old pay-per-view. Be prepared for a ton of ad breaks inserted at random times. There's really no rhyme or reason for it. If you have the higher-priced commercial-free version of Peacock, the content goes dark for a few seconds where everybody else would be watching an ad, though I don't believe it's as long as a normal ad break. But there are still breaks. So even if you're paying for the ad-free version of Peacock, based on what I've seen and what other people are talking about, there are technically still breaks. It just might fade to black for a few seconds and then come back. I'm planning on watching Fastlane on the Peacock service and not the network. So during my recap, I'll let everybody know what my experience is like. One thing that we know is that during live pay-per-views, there will be no ad breaks inserted into the shows. So you don't have to worry about that. Also, if you have any unused gift cards for the WWE Network, I've gotten some questions about that. WWE does plan to issue credits on those gift cards that were purchased in the U.S. They don't have all the details yet. But again, I had gotten some questions about that. So refund credits, what does it mean exactly? I don't even think they know yet, but there will be some kind of payback for those people. I don't mean payback in a negative way. Looks like I only have a few days left to access the network at all, because my billing cycle ends on March 24th. And my understanding is that even though the network is not technically being shut down in this country until April 4th, if your billing cycle ends earlier than that, and some people are already experiencing this, your service is going to terminate on that date. So be aware of that. I already got a tweet from one of our listeners, Morgan, who has already been cut off from the network. You got a message saying, go sign up for Peacock. So if your billing cycle ends this week, then this is going to be your last week of the WWE Network as we know it. So Shane McMahon against Braun Strowman. This was announced originally for Fast Lane, and then all mentions of the match were pulled from WWE.com. All mentions of the match were pulled from WWE social media channels. And it looks like what they're doing is saving the match for WrestleMania, which I assume that's what they were doing anyway. I don't know why they would have announced it for Fast Lane in the first place, aside from the fact that these people don't know what the fuck they're doing. And they're booking this show day to day, week to week. It's WrestleMania season, everybody. Plans change. They were supposed to have a match on Monday. They came to the ring for a match on Raw Monday night. Shane McMahon stalled until Braun Strowman got a hold of him and started throwing him around. Shane hit him in the head with a television camera and delivered his top rope elbow through the announce desk. Then he took 2 buckets out from underneath the ring, 2 buckets filled with green slime, poured them all over Braun Strowman. Look, if I wanted to watch Nickelodeon, I would watch it. I would watch it, which I don't. Now, they may end up doing some kind of a segment on the show. It doesn't look like this match is happening, but hey, by the time you listen to this, that could change. All I know is that as of a few hours ago, they had added a whole bunch of new matches on WWE.com coming out of SmackDown Friday night. And Shane McMahon and Braun Strowman is still no longer listed on the website, so I'm assuming there will be no match. They may do a segment or an angle of some kind. But honestly, you could not pay me enough to care about any of this. Seth Rollins will take on Shinsuke Nakamura. Nakamura interrupted a Rollins promo on Friday night, trashing his good friend and former partner Cesaro. So he came out, he laid out Rollins with the Kinshasa, which is great because it means Cesaro is going to have a match at WrestleMania. Now that's great if you are a Cesaro fan, if you are part of the Cesaro section, then you are very happy right now because he is going to have a match at Mania. The bad news is, if you're a Shinsuke Nakamura fan, he is the sacrificial lamb. He's here to do nothing except take the loss at Fastlane to build to a Seth Rollins-Cesaro match at WrestleMania. But look, and we knew that already, so that's not really a big shock. I am really happy that Cesaro is going to get a proper singles match next month. But the outcome here is not at all in doubt. Obviously, Rollins picks up the win. Matt Riddle defends the United States Championship against Mustafa Ali. Riddle has beaten most of the Retribution geeks the past few weeks on TV, including Ali, last Monday. Ali continues to melt down after every Retribution loss. It is time to end this. The time has come. The time has long since passed, but the time has come to put an end to this. I have Riddle retaining. This group has been a failure from day one. You know this because you've listened to the podcast ever since the summer when we first saw them firebombing the generator out in the parking lot at the PC. Then they took chainsaws to the ring ropes, all the camera shakes. That was the early days of Retribution when Vince McMahon actually kind of sort of cared. Didn't take more than a few weeks for him to lose interest. But yet the group has persisted, and it's persisted because they don't know what else to do with these guys. Either that or they're just very, very stubborn in trying to make this work. But clearly it has been a failure. Winning the championship here, winning the U.S. title, it does nothing to correct that. It does nothing to change any of that. All it does is bring down the U.S. title. The time has come to take this thing out back, put a slug in the back of its head. Put it and us out of our misery. This is a dead end for everyone involved. And my hope is that all of the losing of late is building to at least one of the members splitting away from the group. Maybe they peel off one by one until only Ali remains. I just hope that Dijak and Mia Yim can recover from this to do something more productive on the main roster. It's my only hope. And Ali, too. I like Ali. I have nothing against Ali. I was one of the people who spoke out against the fact that this guy was sitting on the sidelines for 7 months with nothing to do. He wasn't hurt. He wasn't being punished. Creative had nothing for him. I'll bet he's looking back on that now and wishing he could go back to the days where Creative had nothing for him, now that he knows what Creative did have for him. He's longing for the days when Creative didn't even know his name. You know, Bow Wow was on a, what a transition, I know. Bow Wow was on a podcast, and I don't recall offhand which one it was, but he was on a podcast, wrestling podcast this week, and he said that he wants T-Bar. He basically threw down the gauntlet for a challenge at WrestleMania to T-Bar. He told T-Bar he's not going to get a WrestleMania match without him. T-Bar is too busy tweeting at Soulja Boy. Maybe a rap battle is in the cards for old T-Bar at WrestleMania. Slapdick can beatbox for him, while T-Bar has a rap battle with Bow Wow and Soulja Boy. I can't think of a more appropriate way for Retribution to go down in flames. If Big E, defending the Intercontinental Championship against Apollo Crews. This is the opposite of what we're seeing with the U.S. title right now. This is good, long-term storytelling with some actual compelling segments on television. Friday night, they did a split-screen interview that I liked. And Big E could not wait for Sunday. He was so angry. He was so pent up with rage. He said, I'm not waiting until Sunday. Ripped his microphone off. And off he went to go search through Tropicana Field looking for Apollo Crews. He got in a golf cart. He drove it around on the ball field until they found each other. They were brawling. Eventually, Apollo climbed into the golf cart and drove away to safety. I would save the title win for WrestleMania. I wouldn't do it on this show. I think we get a disqualification or a count out or some kind of a disputed finish like that, really like a non-finish, that then leads to a rematch at WrestleMania. But Apollo has lost to Big E a number of times. Even before the heel turn and the attitude shift that we saw from him, he's competed for the championship. He couldn't do it, could not win the big one. And that is, in part, what led to this new and improved Apollo Crews that we see, this new heel turn that we saw from him on TV. So now he's got a whole different persona. He's got a whole new attitude about him. For him to go back in there with Big E and lose again doesn't really make any sense to me. So they need to pay this off with a title win, but I think it happens at WrestleMania and not here. So whoever wins here, whether it's DQ or count out, it's almost irrelevant. You could have... maybe they both lose. I'm just going to go ahead and say that Big E wins. But again, it's a count out or a DQ type win. And they go on to have the real match of WrestleMania. And that is where Apollo Crews walks away as the Intercontinental Champion. We have Sasha Banks and Bianca Belair, WrestleMania opponents, partners once more, teaming to take on Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler for the Women's Tag Team Championship. Sasha had a match against Nia Jax on Friday night. Thankfully, it looks as if she avoided injury, which is always good when you're in the ring with Nia Jax. Or I could say the same thing about Shayna Baszler, I guess, given what she did to poor Asuka, which I'm going to talk about here in a little bit. I mean, what's going on here in this company? But Sasha Banks was successful. She got a win over Nia. Then they booked a match between Shayna and Bianca, and Natty and Tamina got involved. I don't know what is going on there. I mean, they shouldn't have anything to do with Sasha or Bianca right now going into WrestleMania. But obviously, I've not been very happy about the way that they have promoted and hyped this match for the pay-per-view. They had Reginald involved. They were still talking about Reginald. Even though he wasn't there, they were still talking about Reginald on Friday night. Reginald does not have to have anything to do with this. Nia Jax does not and should not have anything to do with this. These are two women who are driven. These are two women who have a chip on their shoulder. Two women who are very confident to the point of almost being arrogant, who believe in their ability and think that they're number one. I mean, it's part of Bianca's whole gimmick, right? She's the EST. She thinks she's the best. Sasha Banks thinks she's the best. I think one of them, preferably Sasha, I would have liked to have seen her maybe even go full-on heel going into... And look, it could still happen. Could happen on Friday night. Could happen this week on SmackDown. Maybe at the pay-per-view. Maybe Sasha walks out on Bianca. The one thing I do know is they're not going to win those tag team titles. I'm picking Nia and Shayna to retain. There's no need to do a title change here in this match. But will one woman turn on the other? Will one walk out on the other? If it happens, it should be Sasha. Trying to teach the rookie a lesson. And leaving her all by her lonesome. But Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler are going to retain their tag team titles. But this was a big enough match. And I don't know if I feel the same way right now. They have a few weeks to kind of rehab, I think, the build to this match, which I do think has suffered. It doesn't feel as big as it should. But you asked me many weeks ago, could you headline one of the nights of WrestleMania with the women? Could you headline one of the nights of WrestleMania with Sasha and Bianca? My answer would have been yes. And it's still something that I would not mind seeing because I think these two can go in there and just kill it. But this build-up leaves a lot to be desired. I don't see this as being one of the headline matches on one of the two nights of WrestleMania right now. But we've got a few weeks yet for them to convince me otherwise. We have Randy Orton squaring off one-on-one against his fiercest opponent to date. Randy Orton is a legend in this company, right? He has fought every big name there is to fight from the last 15 plus years. He's been in the ring. He's been in wars with the likes of The Big Show and The Undertaker and John Cena and Shawn Michaels and Triple H, Roman Reigns, Daniel Bryan, right? Drew McIntyre. The list goes on. Edge. But he faces his toughest challenge to date in 5 Feet of Fury. The form of Alexa Bliss. Randy Orton against Alexa Bliss. Yes, this is an official match for Fast Lane. On Monday night, Alexa was on her swing set and told Randy that if he wanted to kick her out of his life once and for all he had to do was take his chances at Fast Lane. Take the chance. I'm giving you the chance. Go ahead, Randy. Take the chance at Fast Lane. And Orton was all too happy to accept what appeared to be a challenge to a one-on-one match. Although I don't know that they ever used that language, but certainly on the website they're billing this as a one-on-one match. Now, we have seen Randy Orton RKO plenty of women, but a few women in his day. I don't think he really cares about getting in there one-on-one against a woman. But I want to read you. The description for this match as it is currently written on WWE.com. All of the typos that you're going to hear, by the way, are exactly as they are written on the site. I didn't change any of this, although I'm not reading this for the typos. It just sounds completely ridiculous. There just happen to be a bunch of typos in here. But let me read you how WWE.com is getting people excited and previewing this epic encounter on this pay-per-view. At WWE Fast Lane, Randy Orton will go one-on-one with the demonic Alexa Bliss. Over the years, Orton has heard the voices in his head and used them to help get inside the minds of his formidable list of adversaries with a sadistic demeanor equal only to his incredibly dangerous arsenal. Alexa Bliss has embraced the benefits of extreme psychological warfare when she became aligned with The Fiend in order to deliver the strangest and most shocking results imaginable. When Orton burned The Fiend alive, Bliss took on the torch against Orton all by herself, with a gruesome one-woman vendetta filled with mind games and voodoo-like mysticism. In the midst of chaotic back and forth, I forgot the word A, in the midst of a chaotic back and forth that left a C distraction. I told you there were typos in here. I assume that's supposed to be Sea of Destruction. But again, I'm just going to read this as is. In the midst of chaotic back and forth that left a sea distraction, maybe there's a sea monster perhaps that we haven't seen yet on TV. Maybe the Cloverfield monster will make an appearance, or Loch Ness himself at Fast Lane, leaving a sea distraction in its wake on both sides. Orton failed to burn Alexa's playground. Wait, let me say this again. This is the stupidest fucking thing that I've read. Orton failed to burn Alexa's playground's resident after she covered herself in fuel and dared him to do it. The Viper blamed his own compassion, and as a result, WWE's Apex Predator kicked it up a notch and met Bliss's dark nature as they continued to fight for both mind and soul. On the March 15 edition of WWE Fast Lane, apparently there was a first edition of Fast Lane earlier this week. I must have missed it. On the March 15 edition of Fast Lane, Alexa Bliss proposed Randy finally end his nightmare and kick her out of his life. On WWE Fast Lane, a challenge the Legend Killer gleefully accepted. First of all, they need to hire an editor for their website. Second of all, what the hell did I even just read? If you have given up on this television show and you only keep up with it through this podcast, aren't you jealous that you are missing out on all of this? Don't you feel the least bit jealous that I get to sit and watch this and you don't? I'm not so sure we're going to see The Fiend tonight. I'm really not. I'm not so sure we're going to see The Fiend. Yeah, maybe on the Tron, maybe on our screens we'll see him. I don't think we necessarily see him in the flesh. I mean, look at it. At this point, we're what? 3 weeks out from WrestleMania? The Fiend has not been seen since December. They may as well just milk this out a little bit longer. Keep people wondering what he's going to look like when he finally does come back. Will he be sporting a new look? Will he have the same mask? Will the mask be charred? Will Solomonster be able to stay awake long enough to find out? We'll find out the answers to these and all of these burning questions at WWE Fast Lane. They're not having a real match. It's an angle. It's an angle to set up whatever the hell they're going to do at WrestleMania. I'm not even going to make any predictions beyond that. I guess the one prediction I'll make is that I don't think we'll see The Fiend. Not in the ring, not in the arena. I don't think we'll see The Fiend. Drew McIntyre takes on Sheamus in a no-holds-barred match. You know, they came on the air Monday night, right off the bat, when Raw went on the air Monday night, and they immediately announced that Drew McIntyre is going to be challenging Bobby Lashley for the WWE title at WrestleMania. Poof, just like that. They already had Drew fighting Sheamus in a match at Fastlane. This match had already been announced, and they couldn't hold off and announce a stipulation like last man standing or no holds barred, right? Whatever the stipulation was going to be. And just say that, you know, the winner of that match at the pay-per-view to give it some weight, to make it a little bit more meaningful, whoever wins between Drew and Sheamus would go on to challenge Lashley at WrestleMania. They just went on Twitter and they said Drew McIntyre is going to wrestle Bobby Lashley at WrestleMania. Just like that. This, after Drew and Sheamus had knocked each other out with the ring steps the week before. So I thought that was very strange, but what that tells me, if I believe they did this for a reason, what that tells me is that Sheamus is winning this match. Sheamus is my pick. I'm predicting a Sheamus win here in this match. Sheamus lost to Bobby Lashley in the main event on Raw Monday night. I think this is all to set up a McIntyre loss on this pay-per-view, which does one of two things. Either they add Sheamus to the match of WrestleMania and they make it a triple threat, and I'm not really enamored with that idea because I think we're getting that on the SmackDown side already. I don't think we need 2 triple threats, but that's one idea. Or, with the win here, if Sheamus beats Drew McIntyre here, and it's no holds barred, so there's nothing stopping Bobby Lashley, for example, in the Hurt Business from getting involved. If Sheamus wins this match, let's say Drew goes on to win the belt back next month, it positions Sheamus as first in line for a title shot. And that is where they do the stipulation match. This is a stipulation match, but whatever that final stipulation might be. Something just tells me that this is going to end in a last man standing at some point. But stipulation or no stipulation, Sheamus now has a claim. He could say, look, congratulations, champ, but if you forgot, I beat you at Fast Lane, so I should be first in line for a title match. It's kind of like Triple H beating Stone Cold in that 3 Stages of Hell match before WrestleMania 17, only they decided to go in a totally different direction and pair them up instead. They paired off instead of feuding. Even though Triple H had a win over the champion, he had a claim. He could have gone on Raw the next night and said, look, hey, I beat Stone Cold at No Way Out. I want my title shot. They went a different way with it. We've already seen Drew and Sheamus as a team. Those days are over. I'm going to go with my gut, though. I'm sticking with Sheamus. I think Sheamus is going to pick up the win here. By the way, I'm as I sit here now, I'm not really a fan of the idea of putting the belt right back on Drew McIntyre. I would have said that a month ago, and I think I did. I did say that a month ago, but I'm digging this Bobby Lashley run so far, and I think they could run even longer with it. I think to take the title right off him at WrestleMania would be premature. The only thing holding that idea back, I think, is the complete and utter lack of babyfaces on the Monday Night Raw brand. I don't know when they plan on doing another roster shakeup, but they are in dire need of main event level top shelf babyfaces on that Raw brand. They have virtually none. Once you get past Drew McIntyre, Matt Riddle, Keith Lee. I'm going to talk about him in a second too. I don't think we can count on him being back anytime soon. So they have a real problem on the babyface side, and that makes me think that, their plan is to put the belt right back on Drew McIntyre, if for no other reason. They don't have any other good babyfaces. Roman Reigns defends the Universal Championship against Daniel Bryan with Edge as the ringside enforcer. Edge wrestled his first match on SmackDown in a decade on Friday night against Jey Uso, and he won with a spear, making him the enforcer for this match. Roman Reigns came out immediately after and speared Edge. Then he did the same thing to Daniel Bryan when he coaxed Bryan away from the announce desk to come into the ring after him. I think Edge is going to return the favor to Roman at Fast Lane. Better yet, I could see Roman Reigns dodging the spear attempt. He dives out of the way, and Edge spears Daniel Bryan by accident for the disqualification. That then gives Bryan the win, and it gives them a reason to add him to the title match of WrestleMania. So you end up with a triple threat match, Roman Reigns defending the Universal title against both Edge and Daniel Bryan, then Edge. And I said this last week because Edge was so upset with Bryan. Oh, you're being very selfish. What are you doing? Trying to, you're challenging Roman for the title. And I said, this makes no sense. It's as if they jumped the gun. They should have waited until after Fastlane. And if things play out the way that I think they're going to play out, and then Bryan, let's say, is added, or Bryan is trying to muscle his way into the WrestleMania main event, well, then Edge has every reason in the world to be pissed because he won the Royal Rumble. He should get a one-on-one match. If Daniel Bryan is trying to muscle his way and weasel his way into that match, then Edge being upset with Bryan makes every bit of sense. But it really didn't make any sense. It just made Edge look like a little bitch on television last week. Because what does he care? If Daniel Bryan goes to Fast Lane and wins the championship, he's going to get his title match either way. So what does he care? That was dumb. Now, if Bryan ends up being added to the match, Edge can be upset. He can be angry, and you can have a logical reason for him to be angry in that situation. But I think the build the last few weeks for Bryan and Roman, the way that they have booked the build for that match at Fastlane has actually been much better than the build for Roman and Edge at WrestleMania. Now maybe they've just been waiting to get to Fastlane, and they've got some really good segments planned with Roman and Edge for the next few weeks heading into the Mania show. We'll find out. But I've been digging the build to Roman and Bryan a lot more than Roman and Edge, what they've been doing the last few weeks. Bryan should be part of that match. I still say that there was a good story for them to tell with Roman and Edge being, coming back after all these years and winning the Rumble, but then falling short at WrestleMania, not beating Roman Reigns. I would not have him beat Roman Reigns. My fear is that in making this a triple threat, if that's what happens, that is how they get the belt on Edge without Roman having to eat the pin. You could have Edge pinning Daniel Bryan to WrestleMania to become the champion. That protects Roman, I guess. It does, if he doesn't directly lose, and maybe he just goes on a rampage trying to get his belt back. I think the likelihood of them not changing one of the two top titles is very unlikely, so it really comes down to how big of a fan are you of Bobby Lashley and his run right now as compared to the Roman Reigns run? Because do you really think that Bobby Lashley and Roman Reigns are both going to go into WrestleMania and retain the two top titles? I mean, I find that very hard to believe. It's just not the way that WWE does things. So it's like, pick your poison. Who would you prefer if you had to pick one, who would you prefer walks into WrestleMania and loses? Roman Reigns or Bobby Lashley? Again, I'm going to be live on YouTube as soon as Fastlane goes off the air, talking about Peacock and how everything streamed and how everything looked, plus the pay-per-view itself. We'll go through the good, the bad, and the ugly of it all as soon as it goes off the air, so I hope you will join me then.